Today we're going to go over 3 music industry focused statistic-based news articles that kind of show various ways that the music industry is growing. And the first of which is YouTube says it's paid over $6 billion to the music industry in the past year, with over $2 billion coming from user-generated content. Second thing we're going to talk about is the UK record label spent $41 million on A&R, or artist and repertoire, every month in 2021. And the third thing is that Live Nation has already sold 100 million tickets in 2022, more than the entirety of all the tickets that they sold in 2019. All right, so let me share my screen. If you're not familiar with this website, Music Business Worldwide, I'll have links in the description, but basically it's an awesome website to kind of keep tabs on what's happening in the music business. So now we're going to talk about this. YouTube says it paid the music industry over $6 billion in the past year, around $2 billion coming from UGC, or user-generated content. So that would be essentially people using artists' music in their videos, and essentially the copyright ID system or the content ID system flagging that and reallocating those funds from the person who made the video to the music artist. Although I will be honest, that's kind of not a perfect system either, but at least it helps the music industry. Now, one cool thing about this, one conclusion, is that YouTube has its sights on overtaking Spotify as the music right industry's biggest partner by 2025. And YouTube already is a gigantic platform for music, YouTube Music. It comes with YouTube Premium. A lot of people use it. I would say that's one thing that I've noticed marketing my own music, kind of a platform that keeps kind of growing. And the cool thing is you can link your YouTube channel to your artist channel and make this official artist channel, and all your music videos and all your music are kind of like linked together. And then you could also monetize your regular videos in addition to your music on YouTube Music. So like YouTube's platform, I would say, is significantly better in terms of like what artists can do to communicate with their fans compared to Spotify, especially when you just pair it with like the regular YouTube compared to YouTube Music. So if we take a look at these stats, we have this graph here, and let me try to zoom in a little bit. Whoa, I flipped upside down. All right, I flipped myself right side up, and I have no idea what happened there. So we can go through this chart here, which shows that in YouTube versus Spotify annual payments to the music industry from 2020 to 2021. And you can see, and it's still really, really small, so we'll try to zoom in here. This is in billions of dollars. So YouTube is red, Spotify is green. They were kind of neck and neck, $4 billion and $5 billion annual payments to the music industry. In 2021, $6 billion YouTube, $7 billion Spotify. So YouTube's already neck and neck with the amount of money that it gives the music industry. And you can imagine how, with everything else YouTube has and the infrastructure of Google behind it, like it's not too unreasonable to think that a year or two from now, never mind 5 years, that YouTube could just completely crush Spotify. Like, wouldn't surprise me at all. And they do kind of mention this here. They call this the twin engine because YouTube generates music for rights holders through a couple different ways. There's the ads business, and then also like YouTube Music and premium things. Because I don't know if you know this, but there's kind of a few ways. If you use music in a video, the content ID will flag it and then allocate money to the rights holders. But even if you don't do that, there's the whole like YouTube Shorts thing, which is kind of YouTube's ripoff of TikTok, and it's been rapidly growing. But people can use sounds inside of that, and I believe that's one thing that they've been funneling money to the music industry with, because all the music they're paying for the rights to use that music that's inside of that. And it definitely inspires confidence that YouTube is actually specifically calling this out. Like, it's not just something that's happening. They're talking about how they want their twin engine of ad subscription to be the #1 contributor of revenue to the music industry by 2025. That's why YouTube is monetizing all music, short and long form video, audio tracks, live, etc. on all platforms in 100 countries. So it's not just that it's happening, it's that it's something they're actively pursuing. And, considering the vast resources of YouTube and Google, I totally can imagine that they would pull it off. So I wanted to give you this bonus thing because it came out today, but YouTube launches a creator music licensing hub and a new revenue sharing model for Shorts. And if I zoom in a little bit, YouTube launched its creator music hub. Creators can buy music licenses via the hub, which is currently in beta in the US, will expand to more countries in 2023. Creator music is described by YouTube as a new destination that gives creators easy access to an ever-growing catalog of music for use in their videos, while providing artists and music rights holders with a new revenue stream for their music on YouTube. So related to that article I just read, this is a direct way that YouTube is allowing video creators to use music without dealing with the content ID thing. Like, that's a huge problem on YouTube, where if you use music, even if you using it legitimately, you can still get into trouble. just because the way Content ID works, and sometimes even if you use your own music, you can get into trouble. Honestly, the Content ID system is kind of messed up. So to have a thing directly into YouTube where people can license music that's already in the YouTube ecosystem and pay royalties for that is fantastic. It's great for the artist. It's great for the video creators, depending on the price of licensing. But I would imagine that's going to depend a lot on the artist and the labels and all that stuff. Now, YouTube launched what it's called the first of its kind revenue sharing model for its TikTok rival platform, YouTube Shorts. So this says they're moving into a actual YouTube partner program type thing for Shorts. And so, if you're watching this, you're probably in the music world, you're less of a YouTube creator, but a lot of music creators are both. So this is still relevant. And even if you're just doing music stuff, it's also incredibly relevant, because right now there's the YouTube Creator Fund, which is just like a kind of a bad attempt at trying to monetize the system, but that's what TikTok does. And I think Instagram Reels has that too. But it doesn't work the same way as YouTube. It doesn't give you a revenue share model where if YouTube makes, $1,000 off your video, that they give you $500. It works like they'll throw you a bone every so often, depending on what you do. So they're actually working. Early 2023, they're going to be launching an actual YouTube partner program thing for Shorts, which is fantastic. Now, YouTube says that every month, revenue from ads that run between videos and the Shorts feeds will be added together and used to reward Shorts creators and help cover the cost of music licensing. So they're kind of all these new things that they're adding are kind of feeding back in each other, and I think that's really cool. And I hope that this results in I'm a YouTube creator, so I hope it makes life easier if I wanted to license any music across any of my channels, or me as a music creator being able to monetize my music on my YouTube platforms as well. All right, so next up we have UK record labels spending $41 million a month in A&R in 2021. And so that's what this article is here. Now, if you're not familiar with A&R, it stands for Artist and Repertoire. It's basically the portion of a label that goes and hunts down new artists that they might sign. When you hear stories about someone standing in the crowd watching a band and they go backstage and offer them a record deal after, they're talking about an A&R person, essentially. But they do more things than just scout new talent. They also will support the artist. So they might actually help the artist in the studio, they'll get the right producer for them, and they also do some nefarious things where they might sculpt the artist's sound, both good and bad ways of that, obviously if it's too controlling for what the artist wants to do. And they'll also, allocating money for music videos and kind of just developing that artist as well. So it's not just scouting. But $41 million in A&R every single month in 2021. And if we scroll down here, last year reports the BPI, $136 million was spent on marketing and promotion, while a record $358 million was spent specifically on A&R. And if you look at this in more detail, and I'll zoom in a little bit, the A&R spend, which includes artist advances, creating new recordings, video cost, and tour support, was 106% more in 2021 than in 2016. So this is a 5-year period, but if you're not good with numbers, 106% is more than double, right? If you increase something by 100%, it's doubling. So their investments have doubled. Now, this is just the UK, but this is probably a decent indication of how things are going around the world. Record labels are still investing in their artists and investing in signing and developing new artists, which is a good sign, right? I would imagine I don't think we have the stats in here for what happened in 2020, but I would imagine that things scaled back. But it's cool to see that in 2021 it was still substantial. I would imagine 2022 is even more now that touring is actually coming back. And on that note, we're going to flip to our next topic. And this topic is very related to the last thing, right? Because Live Nation has already sold 100 million tickets for concerts in 2022, more than it sold in the entirety of 2019. And obviously that matters because depending on the various arrangements from the record labels and the artists, the labels might get a portion of that, or they might get a lot of it, or they might get a little of it. But that means more money in the music industry, which means more money can be invested into the music industry. And this is a really good sign. And I'll scroll through a really interesting table that I saw that I think sums up just how crippled the live music world has been for the past couple of years. So Q2 2021 reported, if you look at the total amount of money here at the bottom. So obviously we have revenue, and this is some revenue, and then we have losses, and then that's what these numbers are. We have the total here. So $9.7 million, Q2 2021. Go to Q2 2022, and it's $480 million. Which, imagine if all of a sudden your income, let's say you made, I don't know, $50,000 a year, and all of a sudden your income gets slashed to like 2,000 or something, right? Like that's essentially the equivalent of what happened. And this is 2021 also. Like this could be the case where it was even worse in 2020, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, although we did have a few months at the start, so it might not be. But Q3 2020, probably pretty rough. And so the fact that there's all this money being spent in live concerts now, like 100 million tickets, this is shaping up to be the biggest live music year ever in live music history. They even say 2022 is on track to be the biggest year in live music history. Another cool number in this is that Live Nation also reports that fans are spending more on site at its venues, with average revenue per fan up over 20% as it's owned and operated in amphitheaters, festival theaters, and clubs in the same quarter 2020. So essentially that means people are spending more money on merch and food, and you can kind of make sense, right? Everyone hasn't been able to go to a concert, except very few exceptions, for a couple of years, and now they have that chance again. And they're just going to go and they're going to just have a great time. They're going to buy that merch because they haven't spent that money in the past couple of years. And so it just totally makes sense. And they also have this other cool chart here. Experience economy drives record demand for concerts. And we can go through this show count. And this is comparing 2022 to 2019. Show count up 20%. You can see the difference here. Attendance up 20%. Tickets sold up 38%. On-site spend up 30%. Like $38.50 per fan. I don't really know what amps are. They probably define that somewhere else, but like this is pretty substantial growth, right? And the thing is, this is just Live Nation, right? Like this Live Nation doesn't sell every ticket in the world. There's, I don't know if Ticketmaster is related to them in any way, but then there's also independent venues and all this other ticketing platforms online, and there's the whole scalping thing that can happen, and bands selling tickets directly through their websites. So like this is just a fraction. But it's a good sign, right? If one of the biggest ticket selling companies in the world is seeing this massive growth, that's a good sign for everything else in the industry, because the more money that is coming in is the more money that can go out to artists and for labels signing artists and for investments into marketing to grow artists. It all comes back to the artist in some way, no matter how big the cut of the pie the label takes at the end of the day. So if you want to see more music industry news, check out this playlist right here. And if you're wondering how you can market your own music, check out this playlist right here. I'm actually a music artist. You can look up my name on Spotify. And basically, I just share how I market my music. So check that out if you're interested. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. Bye.